Hello, friend, and welcome to the Sleepy Meteorologist. Tonight, we're drifting into the delicate world of snowflakes, those gentle, glistening crystals that fall so silently through the night. Each one a quiet miracle of nature, born high in the cold hush of the clouds, shaped by the slow, rhythmic breath of winter air. Maybe your day has been long, or filled with noise. Or maybe you're simply ready now, ready to let go, to soften into rest. Wherever you are, whatever kind of sky stretches above you, grey and snow-laced, clear and star-scattered, or quietly overcast, I'm so glad you're here. This is a place where you can simply be. There's nothing to solve, no rush, just the soft unfolding of a story told in whispers and wonder, in gentle clouds and calming science. If you enjoy these sleepy meteorology journeys, feel free to like or subscribe, only if you feel like it. Your presence here is more than enough. For now, you can snuggle in, let your body get comfortable, let your breath slow down. There is nothing you need to do but rest. Let's begin. High above the earth, where the air is thin and still, the very first snowflake begins its quiet journey. Not with fanfare, not with frost, but with something so small, so delicate, it nearly escapes notice. A whisper. Up in the coldest reaches of the atmosphere, miles above the clouds that blanket sleepy towns and moonlit forests, the air carries more than just cold. It carries traces of life. Tiny particles drift there, far from where they began. A grain of desert dust, a speck of volcanic ash, a bit of soot, or even a wayward grain of pollen. And it is around one of these that the first act begins. The air is bitterly cold, colder than the deepest winter night. Water vapor floats freely, invisible, moving silently. It meets the tiny speck, this impossibly small nucleus, and does not simply sit. It clings, wraps around. A hush settles as the moisture cools and begins to freeze. This is no ordinary freezing. It's slow. It's elegant. It's the beginning of something utterly unique. The first whisper of ice is like a breath held in the sky. It's not dramatic, but it is profound. Around this seed, a crystal begins to bloom, microscopic, fragile, but beautifully ordered. The universe, it seems, loves symmetry. The ice begins to take shape. It doesn't grow wildly or randomly. It grows with purpose, the structure of water molecules binding together in hexagonal harmony. It is nature's geometry, quiet and constant. No two snowflakes are exactly alike, we often say, and that's true. But they all begin here, with this gentle, frozen hush, with a whisper in the clouds. Up in those high layers of the atmosphere, countless tiny beginnings are taking place, each one a solitary event, yet part of a grand, sweeping pattern. Millions of snowflakes, all starting as a single dust mote, wrapped in a coat of ice. You might imagine the sky like a great cathedral of stillness, where these tiny miracles drift in silence, suspended in the cold. A snowflake does not fall straight away. It must form, it must be shaped, and so we wait with it, here in this hush, watching as the first layer of ice gently unfurls. The air around it is thin, dry, but the cold helps more vapor cling. The crystal grows, slowly, surely. As it expands, it begins to shape itself into something more recognizable. The first hints of arms, of branches, of the soft architecture we've come to associate with snow. But at this stage, it is still very small. You could not see it with your eyes. Yet, it is already becoming what it was meant to be. Nature, even in its gentlest moments, is always moving forward. There's no wind up here, not yet. Just drifting air, quiet cold and the faintest shimmer of ice. As you rest tonight, tucked beneath your own blankets, let your thoughts rise to these high, wintry heights. Picture the snowflake, not yet a flake, just a breath of frozen possibility, beginning its descent. It starts not with motion, but with stillness, and that stillness is where beauty begins. Once the first icy shell forms around the tiny seed, that dust or pollen particle, the next stage unfolds. Slowly, lovingly, crystallization begins not as a flash, but as a rhythm. It is the quiet joining of vapor to solid, a patient building of form. As the air continues to offer its vapor to this forming flake, the water molecules settle into place. They follow a rule, a natural law set by the way hydrogen and oxygen align. The result is a shape we see again and again, in snowflake after snowflake, a six-sided star. 6 arms begin to stretch outward. They grow, not randomly, but in harmony with each other. Each arm mirrors the others, not because they're copied, but because they are built in the same conditions, at the same time, from the same breath of sky. It's as if the snowflake is listening to an ancient song, a melody only it can hear, and it grows by the beat of that music. The arms begin to branch. Each split adds to the complexity, but it is never chaotic. It is intricate, serene. The pace of growth is determined by the surrounding air, temperature, humidity. Even the subtlest variation in warmth or moisture can change how the crystal grows. Warmer air allows for broader plates. Colder air encourages finer, more delicate branches. It's here that the snowflake begins to show its personality. Though all flakes follow the same basic pattern, the tiny shifts in atmosphere make each one distinct. Fern-like structures, needled shapes, hollow columns, dendrites like frozen flowers blooming mid-air. Imagine a snowflake now growing quietly, not yet falling, still suspended. Its arms stretch further, its branches multiply. All the while, more vapor condenses, more edges sharpen, more points emerge. It's beautiful, not because it tries to be, but because nature has no need to try. It simply is. And all of this unfolds in utter silence. No sound accompanies the crystallization, just the hush of altitude, the rhythm of temperature and time, the breathless elegance of physics at work. You can think of this process as a kind of frozen writing, as if the sky itself is inscribing soft, silent poetry onto each flake. As the snowflake's body becomes more intricate, it also becomes heavier, gently, gradually, still invisible to the eye, but preparing now for the next part of its journey. It has taken form, it has gathered beauty. Soon, gravity will call. But for now, we linger here, in the quiet space where vapor becomes crystal, where structure unfolds in perfect balance. A story written in frost, line by line, breath by breath. Let's drift with it a while longer. There's no need to rush. The sky is patient, and tonight, so are we. Let us linger now in the stillness where science and wonder meet, in the arms of a snowflake, quietly unfolding. Have you ever noticed how snowflakes often take the form of 6 pointed stars? That this graceful symmetry repeats over and over in the cold hush of a snowfall. There's something deeply soothing about that quiet order, something that speaks not just to our eyes, but to something in us that finds comfort in pattern. The reason for this hexagonal elegance lies in the tiniest of places, within the shape of water itself. Every snowflake begins with water vapor, molecules made of 2 hydrogen atoms bonded to 1 oxygen atom. These molecules are shaped like little angles, with the hydrogen atoms set about 104.5 degrees apart. But as these molecules begin to freeze, they naturally align into patterns. At cold temperatures, when they slow and begin to bond, they fall into a crystalline structure, and that structure favors 60-degree angles. 6 of these connections, radiating outward, create the familiar hexagonal core. From this shape, the arms of the snowflake begin to stretch. 6 arms, always 6, though what they become from there may differ. It is not a choice, not a design. It is simply what happens when water rests in cold air. The hexagon is the most efficient way for water molecules to arrange themselves. It balances space, energy, and symmetry, a quiet perfection born of necessity. And so, snowflakes carry that shape with them as they grow, echoing the molecular story of their origin. As the flake continues to form, each of the 6 arms grows outward from the center, shaped by the very same physics. Because each arm experiences the same conditions, the same temperature, the same humidity, the same timing, they tend to grow in harmony. That's why the arms look so alike, even though they grow independently. The result is breathtaking, a flake that mirrors itself, delicate and poised. 6 sides, 6 stories, all connected by that central truth, the hexagon at the heart. This hexagonal beauty can also be found elsewhere in nature, in honeycombs, in basalt columns, even in the patterns of Saturn's North Pole. But in snowflakes, it drifts gently from the sky, landing softly on windows, scarves, and eyelashes. The symmetry is fleeting. A snowflake's shape can shift as it falls, melting, reforming. But at its core, it always remembers the 6, the shape born in silence, written in ice. So, when you next see a snowflake, on your mitten, on your coat, or floating by the window, you'll know. It carries the memory of molecules, the geometry of water, the calm voice of cold, all in 6. And as you breathe softly now, let your thoughts drift in circles, in spirals, in snowflakes. The air is still, the sky is writing, and sleep is near. Now, let's float gently through the sky again, with the snowflake we've been following, no longer just a whisper of ice, but a crystal in bloom. Its arms are outstretched, its center is steady, and all around, the sky is shaping it further. Not with hands, but with temperature, with humidity, with breath. You see, no snowflake grows alone. It is sculpted by its surroundings, moment by moment, as it moves through layers of the atmosphere. The air above is rarely constant. Some layers are colder, others slightly warmer. Some are moist, filled with invisible vapor. Others are dry, crisp, and thin. Each layer tells a different part of the story, and the snowflake listens. When the air is moist and just cold enough, the flake spreads wide, growing flat, star-like plates, delicate and lacy. In drier air, its shape becomes simpler, narrower. Long, thin needles emerge. Sometimes, column shapes, like frozen threads, appear when the snowflake forms in slightly warmer heights. Each shape is not random. It is a diary, a quiet record of the snowflake's journey through the sky. Meteorologists have charted these patterns, matching temperature and humidity with flake shapes. Around -2 degrees Celsius, you might see plates. At -5 degrees Celsius, needles form. Near -15 degrees Celsius, dendrites, the branching, ornate ones, flourish in moist air. And at -30 degrees Celsius, tiny, simple prisms. But even with this knowledge, each snowflake remains a surprise. The sky is never the same from one moment to the next. Think of a snowflake like a traveler, passing through invisible lands. The winds may shift, the cold may deepen, a patch of moisture may cause an arm to branch or widen, another might grow slower, thinner, and yet, somehow, the sixfold balance holds. Even the smallest flake tells a complex story, a silent journal of its path from cloud to ground. And when it finally arrives, perhaps on your windowsill or sleeve, you're seeing the end of that journey, a frozen fingerprint of the air itself. Isn't that remarkable? That the weather leaves notes for us in crystal. So tonight, let's imagine that path, drifting down with the flake, feeling each shift in air, sensing the cold grow sharper, then soften, watching its branches form, its arms stretch. Let your breath slow as the snowflake drifts lower, and as we reach the ground, we'll pause. The flake has landed, its shape now fixed, until warmth finds it again. But we'll stay here a little longer, resting in the quiet truth that every flake carries a story written in air, in cold, in time, and now in your dreams. Humidity acts like a sculptor, tenderly shaping the delicate architecture of snowflakes as they form in the hushed silence of the upper atmosphere. With every breath of moisture in the air, nature wields an invisible chisel, carving intricate patterns into tiny frozen canvases. When the air is rich with water vapor, the possibilities become endless. A fuller flourish here, an elegant branch there, each arm of the snowflake responding to the whisper of humidity with quiet precision. Up in the cold and quiet heights, where clouds drift like dreams, ice crystals begin to form around the tiniest of seeds, perhaps a speck of dust or a grain of pollen. As the crystal begins to grow, it draws in water vapor from the surrounding air. When the humidity is high, there is more vapor to work with. The crystal can grow more freely, expanding outward with delicate arms, forming feathery branches and lacy extensions. Each tendril curls and divides, echoing itself with near-perfect symmetry, as if the snowflake is remembering its own shape while inventing it at the same time. In this gentle environment, high humidity encourages complexity. Snowflakes become wide and expansive, each branch adorned with sub-branches, and those sub-branches adorned with even finer details, tiny ridges, elegant curves, or needle-thin extensions that catch the light like spun glass. They grow not only in form but in personality, no two exactly alike, yet each one bearing the silent signature of the air it passed through. But in drier skies, the story changes. The air is less giving. Moisture is sparse. The sculptor's hands are more restrained. Snowflakes that form in these conditions are simpler, more compact. Their edges are crisp and clean, their arms shorter and more uniform. Instead of branching outward in elaborate displays, they grow modestly, preserving their core structure with quiet grace. These snowflakes are no less beautiful, just more reserved, like poetry written in haiku instead of prose. This dance between moisture and form plays out millions of times a day across the sky. Every flake that falls carries a secret map of the humidity it encountered, a frozen memoir of the air's invisible touch. And though we may not notice the subtle differences as we watch the snow drift gently past our windows, each flake tells a tale. Some are tales of abundance, shaped by generous vapor and soft temperatures. Others are tales of restraint, crafted with minimal tools and maximum elegance. Humidity does not act alone, of course. Temperature, altitude, and wind all have their say, but it is humidity that breathes richness into the form. Like a painter's palette, the more moisture there is, the more shades of complexity the flake may take on. And in this slow, silent unfolding, there is peace. No rush, no urgency, just the gentle, meditative shaping of something temporary, fragile, and beautiful. So when you next see snow falling softly in the night, think of the sculptor at work. Think of the air quietly shaping these silent messengers, each one a floating poem, a whisper from the sky. Whether complex or simple, sprawling or compact, they are all part of the same quiet miracle, a story told in silence, written in frost. Sleep now, knowing that even the smallest things, a breath of water, a flake of snow, hold within them the infinite patience of the sky. Snowflakes begin with a single breath, a seed of ice suspended high in the cradle of a cloud. But from that simple beginning, a symphony of growth begins to unfold. Rather than curling inward like a shell, snowflakes grow outward, expanding their beauty into the surrounding air, reaching further and further into space. Each layer, each crystal addition, is like a chapter in a slowly written story, a quiet unveiling of nature's frozen geometry. It starts at the center, a microscopic hexagonal plate, no larger than a whisper. As the flake floats gently within the cloud, water vapor continues to cling to its surface, turning from gas to solid in a process called deposition. But instead of simply stacking upward or thickening the middle, the flake reaches outward. Tiny arms extend from its 6 corners, radiating like spokes from a wheel. These arms are the beginning of something miraculous. From here, the growth becomes rhythmic, almost musical. Water molecules gather in harmony, layering upon the tips and sides of each arm. A sub-branch forms, then another. Before long, the flake resembles a living star, not alive in the traditional sense, but alive with motion and intention. Though it cannot think or feel, its growth is purposeful. It obeys the quiet rules of physics and temperature, humidity and time. Each of the 6 arms mirrors the others in a stunning act of symmetry. This balance comes not from coordination, but from shared conditions, the same temperature, the same vapor levels, the same journey through the cloud. Every branch is shaped by the same invisible hands, like a choreographed dance performed without a director. It's a kind of silent cooperation, where each part echoes the rest. But the growth is not merely structural, it is expressive. Some snowflakes form wide, fern-like patterns, each branch decorated with intricate side structures. Others are narrow and needle-like, sleek and shimmering. Some flakes resemble wheels, others resemble stars. The variations are endless, yet all follow the same foundational laws. Growth occurs along the outer edges, layer by layer, molecule by molecule, in stillness and silence. In this gentle expansion, there's something profoundly peaceful. The flake is in no hurry. It drifts, suspended in its clouded world, responding only to the subtle signals around it. A slight rise in humidity may encourage a flourish on one branch. A cooler current may sharpen its angles. And all the while, it continues to grow, not inward, not enclosed, but outward into the waiting world. This outward growth speaks to something deeply comforting. It is the universe's way of saying, expand, reach gently beyond your boundaries, form new patterns, new expressions, without fear. Just as the snowflake unfolds in quiet perfection, so too does the night around you. Layer by layer, moment by moment, the world builds its gentle dreams. So, as you lie here, eyes closed and breath soft, imagine a single snowflake drifting in the high hush of a winter sky. Watch it grow, not in haste, but with grace, arms stretching out like soft branches of ice, mirrored in harmony, unfolding in time. Let it remind you that even in stillness, beauty grows, that from a single center, wonder can radiate outward endlessly. Let the snow fall in your thoughts. Let the night deepen. Let yourself drift, growing gently outward into sleep. Why are no two snowflakes the same? It's a question as old as wonder itself, asked beneath snowy skies by those watching flakes swirl and tumble like whispers from above. The answer, like the snowflakes themselves, lies in the path each one takes. A snowflake is more than just frozen water. It is a traveler, a silent voyager, through the ever-changing layers of the sky. And in that quiet journey, through winds and warmth, through pockets of chill and breaths of moisture, it becomes something utterly unique. It begins, as so many things do, with a single speck, a nucleus, tiny and unseen, floating high within a cold and waiting cloud. Around this particle, water vapor gathers and begins to freeze, forming the earliest beginnings of the snowflake's shape. But from that moment on, no two flakes will ever follow quite the same path. Some will drift steadily downward. Others will be lifted again and again by invisible currents, weaving a spiral of experience into their form. With each movement, each moment, the snowflake passes through different pockets of the atmosphere. One layer may be colder, causing sharper edges to form. Another might be more humid, allowing branches to bloom with delicate extensions. A sudden gust of wind might toss the flake into a drier zone, halting its growth for a time. Then, as it sinks lower, new moisture may be found, sparking a fresh flourish of frozen design. These changes are subtle, tiny shifts in temperature, minute variations in moisture, yet they matter. They sculpt the flake in real time, one molecule at a time, in response to the ever-changing world it drifts through. And because no two flakes take precisely the same journey, no two are ever shaped the same. Some may grow broad and fern-like, spreading out like icy leaves. Others stay compact, like tiny stars. Some bear 6 wide arms adorned with ornate, lacy detail. Others form needles, hollow columns, or slender plates. Each is a fingerprint of its experience, an ephemeral record of turbulence, temperature, and time. And though billions fall with each snowstorm, nature never repeats herself. The sky has no need for copies. Instead, it creates endlessly, patiently, with quiet craftsmanship. The snowflake becomes a canvas for the atmosphere to express itself, gently, fleetingly, beautifully. It's comforting, somehow, to think of the snowflake in this way, not just as an object, but as a story, a quiet traveler, gathering shape as it passes through unseen corridors of the sky. A poem written by air and motion, a reminder that every path, even the slowest and softest, leads to something singular and special. So as you lie beneath the stillness of night, let the snowflakes drift across your imagination. See them swirling in the moonlight, each one writing its own silent story. Let the thought settle gently in your heart that even the smallest journey can shape something unique, that even the softest fall has meaning, and in that knowledge may you rest. May your dreams unfold like snowflakes, drifting, delicate, and entirely your own. High above the earth, in the hushed chambers of winter clouds, something remarkable awaits. Tiny droplets of water hover in a delicate state, colder than ice, yet not yet frozen. These are supercooled water droplets, lingering just below the freezing point, suspended in time and space, waiting for a reason to change. And that reason often arrives in the form of a snowflake. As an ice crystal begins to take shape, it encounters these supercooled droplets, each one smaller than a grain of dust, invisible to the naked eye. When a droplet touches the surface of the growing flake, something magical occurs. In an instant, the droplet freezes, surrendering its liquid form and becoming part of the flake's crystalline body. This moment, gentle and immediate, fuels the flake's growth. Like breath to a flame, the frozen droplet expands the shape of the snowflake, adding new layers of structure and form. Each contact with a supercooled droplet offers another building block, another opportunity for the flake to grow outward, to branch, to unfold its intricate beauty. Supercooled water is both fragile and powerful. It exists in a state of balance, waiting to be nudged into transformation. It does not freeze on its own, not easily. It needs a surface to begin the process. And snowflakes, with their sharp edges and eager surfaces, provide just the right stage for this change to take place. This process, called accretion, is quiet but vital. It gives snowflakes their substance, their shape, their sparkle. It allows for the wide, lacy flakes that flutter gently to the ground, the ones that catch on eyelashes and coat the world in softness. Without supercooled water, many snowflakes would remain small, barely more than specks of frost. But with it, they become elaborate, delicate sculptures of winter's breath. The clouds that cradle this process are often a mix of states, some regions filled with vapor, others with droplets, others with ice. It is this mixture that gives rise to complexity. As snowflakes drift through the cloud, they dip in and out of these regions, collecting vapor, absorbing droplets, and slowly layering themselves into form. Think of it as a quiet collaboration between liquid and solid, between stillness and motion. The supercooled droplets do not resist their fate. They are ready. They only need a touch, a presence, to become something more. And so, the snowflake grows. With each encounter, with each tiny freezing droplet, its body expands and its shape refines. It becomes the sum of countless moments of transformation, silent, invisible, yet profoundly beautiful. As you drift towards sleep, imagine those droplets waiting in the clouds, suspended in the cold, untouched, and trembling. And then imagine a snowflake, featherlight, brushing past. The meeting is instant, the change is complete. And from that moment on, something new has begun. Let the thought soothe you, that change can come gently, that even in the cold, growth is possible, that sometimes all we need is the right moment, the right contact, to become more than we were before. Sleep now in the quiet company of snowflakes and clouds, and the tender gift of supercooled dreams. Sometimes, in the high and hushed altitudes of winter clouds, snowflakes are dressed in something extra, a delicate coating, a subtle shimmer, a quiet armor. This isn't the intricate growth of branching arms, or the lacy fingers shaped by water vapor alone. This is rime, a featherlight jacket of frozen breath, built when the flake crosses paths with supercooled mist. Picture a snowflake drifting slowly through a cloud layered with tiny droplets. Droplets colder than freezing, but still suspended in liquid form. These supercooled droplets, ever patient, hover in stillness until they encounter something solid, something willing to accept their touch. When one of these droplets brushes against the snowflake's surface, it freezes instantly, attaching itself like a shell of tiny pearls. And another follows, and another. Before long, the flake wears a softened coat of frost. This coat is known as rime ice, a frosty frosting, a breath of frozen cloud that settles over the sharp edges of the crystal. Underneath, the snowflake remains structured and symmetrical, but the outer appearance changes. The fine details blur. The branches look puffier, almost clouded. Instead of sharp, angular arms, the flake takes on a rounder, softer silhouette, as if the wind had wrapped it in a cloak before sending it downward. Rime ice does not erase the snowflake's inner form. It simply adds a layer, a light armor, formed by contact, by motion, by the delicate interaction between water and air. And yet, this armor is not heavy. It does not weigh the flake down. It drifts all the same, quiet and slow, with that same hush that winter carries in its breath. In weathered landscapes, rime forms not only on snowflakes, but on mountaintops, tree branches, and the thin wires of winter fences. Where moist air meets frozen surfaces, the droplets freeze upon contact, layering into lacy, feathery frost. But on a snowflake, already a marvel of geometry and glass-like fragility, rime is something different. It is both a transformation and a concealment. It hides the precision while protecting it. And so, a flake wrapped in rime may appear different from the rest. Not wrong, not broken, simply dressed for a different part of the journey. The edges may appear less distinct, the branches more muted, but within, the sixfold symmetry still lives. The flake remains what it was, only now softened by its encounter with the mist. It's a gentle reminder that even the most intricate structures can wear armor, that even delicate things can carry a shell, a coating of frost that holds the cold at bay. Rime doesn't strengthen by force. It strengthens by embracing, by cloaking, by resting gently on the surface of something already whole. As you drift into rest tonight, imagine a sky filled with snowflakes, each one adorned in its own way, some sharp and glimmering, others puffed with frost. Picture them descending in silence, wrapped in their crystal armor, floating through a world of stillness and grace. Let that image cradle you, the thought of softness upon structure, of cold that comforts, not harms, of beauty that changes form, yet never loses its core. Let your thoughts wear their own rime coat tonight, a protective layer of peace, as you gently drift into sleep. No matter how chaotic the sky, no matter how winding the path, no matter how puffy or laced or curled the arms of a snowflake may become, one secret remains untouched. At the very center of every flake, there lives a rule, silent and steadfast. 6 sides, 6 arms, 6 points of growth, radiating from a center as steady as a heartbeat. This is not mere coincidence. It is the quiet order beneath the sky's drifting poetry. The 6-sided symmetry of snowflakes is not imposed from above, nor designed by hand. It is born from the fundamental structure of water itself, an invisible code written into the very molecules that make up clouds and frost and breath. When water freezes, its molecules arrange themselves in a hexagonal pattern, a 6-fold symmetry that allows for both strength and openness. This shape is not chosen, but simply happens. It is how the molecules fit best together in their solid state, forming bonds that are both sturdy and flexible. As vapor deposits onto an ice crystal, the structure naturally expands outward in 6 directions, guided by this molecular rhythm. From the tiniest hexagonal plate that begins a snowflake's life, to the most elaborate fern-like arms that grow as it falls, every layer honors this rule. Even when the flake looks wild, jagged, curled, or tangled by wind and weather, the pattern persists. The core never forgets. Even rime-coated flakes, puffed and rounded by supercooled droplets, still carry this hexagonal blueprint beneath the surface. This quiet consistency is comforting, especially in a world so full of change. The sky is never still. Air currents twist and tumble. Temperatures rise and fall in the span of seconds. Moisture flows, then vanishes. And yet, through it all, the flake remembers its shape. 6. Always 6. It's like a song sung by the molecules themselves, a soft hum of structure in a swirling world. The snowflake doesn't force its form. It simply follows what is natural, what is already written in the physics of water. This is not rigidity. It's a gentle kind of truth, one that holds even as everything else changes around it. As you lie beneath the hush of night, let this thought settle over you, that even in the most complex of systems, there can be simplicity. Even in chaos, there is rhythm. Even in the cold, there is order, soft, patient, and perfect. Close your eyes and picture a flake forming far above. 6 arms, 6 directions, spiraling gently into being. No matter how elaborate it becomes, it remains true to its origin. Its elegance lies not in perfection, but in constancy. In a world where nothing stays the same for long, the snowflake carries a whisper of certainty. Let that whisper lull you tonight. Let the 6-sided secret drift across your thoughts like falling snow, gentle, symmetrical, and serene. And as the snowflakes descend outside your window, remember, even the wildest journeys hold on to their center. So too may your dreams. Not all snowflakes spread their arms wide. Not every crystal is a star. In certain corners of the sky, under just the right conditions, something simpler, yet no less beautiful, begins to take shape. The flake doesn't branch. It doesn't spiral outward or grow into lacy ferns. Instead, it stretches itself into something quiet and slender, a needle. These needle-like snowflakes form when the temperature of the cloud hovers near a particular range, usually around -5 degrees Celsius or 23 degrees Fahrenheit. In this zone of chill, the physics of ice behaves differently. Instead of favoring flat, sprawling growth along a plane, the ice extends vertically, lengthening itself along one axis like a beam of frozen moonlight. The result is a crystal that grows long and thin, a delicate shaft of ice, smooth and narrow, tapering at the ends. Sometimes these needles form in clusters, each one growing alongside its neighbors like a bundle of fine winter thread. They drift downward together, rarely alone, moving through the air with a quiet unity. Needles grow quickly, often faster than their broader cousins. Their shape allows them to accumulate water vapor efficiently, pulling in the ingredients for growth and converting them to ice with elegant speed. Because they do not branch, their structure is simple, not in design, but in direction. A single focus, a linear path, like thoughts becoming lines of poetry, uncomplicated and graceful. They often settle together into soft layers, especially on windshields, windowsills, and pine branches. You may not notice their individual forms unless you look closely, but they're there, lying parallel like the tiniest of reeds, frozen into place by the hush of winter air. There's something soothing about their consistency. In a world where snowflakes are often celebrated for their wild variety, these needle-shaped forms offer a quieter kind of beauty. Their symmetry is subtle, their uniqueness is less dramatic. But in that calm simplicity, there is balance and speed. Because of their shape, needles tend to fall faster than larger, more ornate flakes. With less air resistance, they descend in soft clusters, their journey through the sky smooth and uninterrupted. And when many fall together, they can create a soft rustling sound, a whispering patter, almost too faint to hear. It's easy to imagine these needle snowflakes as messengers, swift travelers sent through the atmosphere, bearing the quiet news of the cold. They arrive quickly, deliver their stillness, and melt softly into the earth or your coat sleeve, disappearing without drama. In the night, if you find yourself under such a snowfall, you might notice the way it feels different, less floaty, more direct. There's no swirl, no dance, just a quiet, steady fall, like nature exhaling a long breath of frost. And so, let that breath carry you now. Let the thought of snowflake needles ease your mind, their steady, graceful descent through the cold night sky. Not every flake must be adorned in lace. Sometimes beauty is a line, a path, a pause. Close your eyes. Picture the sky drawing fine strokes with icy ink, writing gentle lines across the air. Let those lines carry your thoughts into sleep, each one a soft descent into rest, colder still, deeper into the sky. The air becomes quieter, the light more blue, and the snowflakes begin to shift once more in form. When the temperature drops further, around -6 to -10 degrees Celsius, snowflakes abandon the familiar branching arms, and instead build upward and downward. They take on a new geometry, the column. These snowflakes grow not as stars or needles, but as pillars, tiny hexagonal towers of ice. At first glance, they may seem less ornate, less decorative, but look closely, and you'll find a world of quiet architecture, shaped with steady intention. These snowflake columns resemble minuscule crystals of quartz or tiny pipes of frost, stacking, stretching, solidifying in the coldest corridors of the atmosphere. The physics behind this shift lies in the molecular behavior of water. At this temperature range, ice crystals grow more easily along the vertical axis than the horizontal. Rather than fanning out like plates or needles, the crystal prefers to thicken, to rise. Its arms become sides, its symmetry becomes depth. And in that change, a new kind of elegance emerges, quiet, solid, unadorned. Some columnar snowflakes are simple, a straight shaft of ice with 6 nearly invisible sides. Others take on complexity, growing hollow centers that make them look like frosty straws, delicate and precise. These hollow columns are especially sensitive to shifts in humidity, sometimes forming twin caps on either end, a sort of crown for each column, born from subtle changes in the surrounding air. They fall gently, these snowflake towers, and though their shapes are harder to see with the naked eye, they are no less present. They settle on the earth like tiny monuments, each one a fleeting pillar built in midair. In some skies, columns may mix with other forms, needles, plates, or flakes touched by rime. But when the cold is deep and stable, columns dominate, layering themselves into the soft structures we see on windows, tree limbs, and rooftops. There's a peaceful sense of order in the way they grow, not sprawling outward in chaos, but building up and down in quiet alignment. They are the architects of the snowfall, designing with balance, shaped by cold and time. And as they drift downward, they bring with them a hush, a reminder of stillness, of slowness. They don't rush, and they don't demand attention. They fall like thoughts unspoken, like pages in a dream, stacking gently onto the landscape below. So tonight, imagine those tiny columns forming high above, each one a miniature tower made of sky. Picture them floating downward through layers of cold, perfectly aligned, perfectly quiet. Let that image bring a sense of calm, a sense that in even the deepest cold there is structure, that even when stripped of flourish, beauty endures. Rest now in the company of these frozen pillars. Let the night build softly around you, like snowflake columns forming in the dark, layer by layer, breath by breath, stillness upon stillness, peace in the cold. Sleep and let the towers rise. There is a kind of snowflake we often see in our dreams, the one we cut from paper as children, the one stitched into winter scarves, the one drawn in frost on glass. It has 6 arms, each branching like a fern, each mirroring the others in delicate precision. This is the snowflake of imagination, of memory, of wonder. And in the sky, when conditions are just right, this dream becomes real. These snowflakes are called dendrites, from the Greek word dendron, meaning tree. The name suits them well, for each flake looks like a frozen forest, a star-shaped blossom of ice growing outward in fractal beauty. No other snowflake shape is quite as iconic, nor as delicate. Their presence signals a rare balance of nature, a sweet spot in temperature and humidity that allows for the most intricate growth. Dendrites form when the air is cold, but not too cold, typically around -15 degrees Celsius or 5 degrees Fahrenheit. At this temperature, water vapor is drawn most eagerly to the 6 tips of the growing crystal. As each tip extends, side branches begin to sprout, forming fine twigs and fronds of ice. This process, called diffusion-limited growth, means that the edges grow faster than the center, giving dendrites their iconic spread. But it's not only temperature that matters. Humidity must also be just right, moist enough to feed the growing flake, but not so wet that the crystal becomes obscured by frost or rime. When this perfect balance exists in the cloud, dendrites flourish, unfolding in airy symmetry. These flakes are large, fragile, and fleeting. Their branches are broad and thin, making them especially susceptible to wind and warmth. A single breath of air can send one spinning. A brief rise in temperature can soften its sharpness. And yet, when they do survive the journey from cloud to ground, they offer one of winter's most enchanting sights. Flakes so wide and lace-like, they can be seen resting whole on a mitten, a coat sleeve, or even the tip of a child's tongue. There is something in their structure that speaks to us. Perhaps it's the balance, the way each arm grows independently, yet somehow remains perfectly in sync. Or maybe it's the elegance, the airy openness that allows light to pass through, casting tiny shadows on the snow beneath. Or perhaps it's the sheer improbability of it all, that such fragile things can form high in the sky, drift for miles, and land intact. Dendrites are nature's snow blossoms, blooming not from soil, but from air and cold. They do not last, and they ask for nothing. They simply unfold, fall, and vanish. And in doing so, they remind us of the beauty in the temporary, the loveliness of things that arrive in quiet, dazzle gently, and disappear without a trace. So, tonight, let your thoughts drift like dendrites, expanding softly outward, each one unique. Picture them blooming far above, branching like silver feathers, drifting in spirals beneath a pale winter moon. Let their silent geometry calm your mind. Sleep now, knowing that somewhere in the clouds, stars of ice are still forming, quiet, perfect, dreaming their way to earth. As snowflakes make their way from cloud to earth, they rarely descend in a straight line. Instead, they tumble gently, spinning and drifting, caught in the invisible currents of the sky. Their path is not rushed nor forced. It is graceful, wandering, like a leaf on a breeze, or a feather slowly falling from above. This motion, this soft spiraling, is more than just a dance. It is part of how a snowflake grows. You see, as the flake spins, it presents different surfaces to the surrounding air. Each turn gives another side the chance to gather water vapor, to collect supercooled droplets, to build and bloom. Air is not uniform. Even within a single cloud, temperature and humidity change from one pocket to another. A flake that simply fell straight through would miss these subtle shifts. But one that spins, one that turns softly as it falls, can experience more of the sky. It can encounter more conditions, more moments of possibility. Some flakes spin rapidly, flipping and fluttering like tiny dancers. Others move slowly, rotating with calm deliberation. Their motion depends on their shape, their size, and the wind around them. Broad flakes, like dendrites, are especially prone to tumbling. Their wide arms catch the air like wings, causing gentle rotation. Narrow flakes, like needles or columns, may drift more steadily, though even they are rarely still. Sometimes the rotation is symmetrical, a balanced twirl like a top. Other times, the flake wobbles unevenly, responding to subtle pushes from the air. And as it turns, the flake is shaped. One side may grow faster than another. One branch may lengthen, while another remains still. These tiny imbalances are what make every snowflake unique. This slow, spinning fall also softens the snowflake's descent. It prevents the flake from plummeting, instead encouraging a gentle glide. This is part of why snowfall feels so peaceful, not crashing or rushing, but drifting. Falling snow is a lesson in surrender, in going where the wind takes you, in letting time stretch out across the sky. To watch snowfall is to witness 1,000 quiet spirals, each one its own story. It's as if the flakes are dancing, not because they must, but because they can, responding to the wind's quiet invitation. Their movement writes invisible patterns in the air, delicate spirals that vanish the moment they form. As you lie still tonight, imagine yourself drifting downward like a snowflake, not falling, but floating, turning slowly, moving gently through layers of quiet, through fields of air that change with every breath. Let yourself spin softly in the hush of thought, not hurried, not worried, just drifting, just becoming. Let each rotation bring something new, a moment of calm, a breath of ease, a whisper of wonder. You are safe in your spiral. There is nothing to chase, nothing to hold, just you and the soft motion of dreams. Sleep now in the slow spin of snowfall. Let the world turn around you. Let your breath match the snow's rhythm and drift. High above the earth, where the air is thin and the world below feels far away, an invisible ballet unfolds. Here, in the cold heart of the sky, millions of snowflakes are born, not all at once, but together, like dancers entering a stage already aglow with music you cannot hear. It begins quietly. No trumpet sounds, no lights dim, just a breath of water vapor meeting a sliver of dust or pollen, the tiniest seed. Ice begins to form, slow and silent. Then another and another. Across the breadth of the cloud, crystals awaken, delicate, weightless, gently expanding into form. They do not grow in solitude. They are surrounded by others, each one carving its path through currents and eddies, through swells of moisture and pockets of calm. Some move quickly, some slowly. Some drift alone, spinning lazily downward. Others brush against their neighbors, colliding gently or gliding side by side. This is not chaos. It is choreography, the kind that only nature could compose. A ballet not of bodies, but of forms. Each snowflake is a dancer, each movement a step shaped by temperature, turbulence, and time. They stretch and sway, twirl and turn, building their bodies with grace and patience. In the soft chaos of the cloud, some flakes collide and bounce away, unshaken. Others, when touched just right, merge, not violently, but tenderly, forming small clusters that spiral downward in unison. There are no mistakes in this dance, only variations. Each interaction brings new possibilities. Each flake becomes what it must, guided by the subtle script of the sky. From below, we rarely see this. We notice only the end of the performance, when the snow begins to fall, drifting past our windows and gathering quietly on rooftops and branches. But high above, before the world sees a single flake, the sky has already been moving in slow, beautiful motion. There's something comforting in this unseen dance, in knowing that, beyond our view, something gentle is always unfolding. That even in the stillest clouds, motion continues. That even in silence, there is music. Tonight, imagine yourself among those clouds. Picture millions of snowflakes twirling in the dim blue air, untouched by sound, unbothered by gravity. Let their choreography calm your thoughts. There is no rush, no destination, only the joy of motion, of form taking shape. You are part of the ballet now, a flake among flakes, dancing in the cold quiet. Drift with them, turn slowly, feel the softness of the world around you. Let the dance continue as you sleep. Let the clouds carry you, gentle and light, into dreams. Not every snowflake falls alone. Sometimes, in their long descent from cloud to ground, flakes find one another. They meet not with force, but with softness. Their arms catch, their surfaces touch, and in that quiet contact, something new is formed, a larger flake, a cluster, a snowy clump, drifting more slowly than any flake could on its own. This is how those big, fluffy snowflakes are made, the ones that tumble down in wide, slow spirals, looking like bits of cotton or downy feathers drifting through the sky. They're not a single crystal, but a gentle gathering of many. And though they may seem more fragile, they hold together long enough to bring a moment of wonder to those watching from below. The merging begins in the cloud. As snowflakes grow and drift, they pass through patches of air filled with others, millions of them, all turning and floating at different angles. Sometimes, when two flakes are close enough and the conditions are just right, they stick. If their surfaces are slightly damp or rimed with frost, the bond can hold. And from that bond, a cluster begins. One flake becomes two become four. Before long, the cluster becomes a soft, three-dimensional flurry, a tender collection of frozen forms. These clusters don't lose their individuality. They simply share space, moving as one. Each arm, each branch, still tells the story of the flake it came from. But together, they fall more slowly, more visibly, like snow lanterns floating down from the clouds. The larger the clump, the slower it drifts. Wide flakes catch more air. They swirl, fluttering like paper in the breeze, suspended in motion. Sometimes they seem to hover, as if deciding where to land, or pausing just long enough for you to catch a glimpse before they melt away. When the air near the ground is just above freezing, these clumped flakes can become especially large. Their descent becomes almost theatrical, thick snow falling in slow motion, cloaking the world in a blanket of hush. Footsteps fade, roofs soften, trees wear a coat of white. The world grows quieter, wrapped in the gentle presence of snowfall. And yet, even in their unity, these clumped flakes remain temporary. Their bonds are soft. A breeze may separate them. A warm surface may dissolve them. But for a time, they move together, a fleeting community of ice crystals sharing the sky. There's something soothing in the way they gather, not by force, not by design, but simply because the moment allowed it. And that, perhaps, is the most tender lesson they offer, that sometimes, in the drifting of life, we find others. We hold for a while, we fall together, we land softly. So, as you drift into sleep tonight, imagine those fluffy snowflakes spiraling down, not alone, but joined, each one a small part of something larger, a chorus instead of a solo. Let their softness wrap around you. Let the thought of shared descent, of quiet unity, carry you into dreams. Close your eyes and float like a feathered flake through the night, light, slow, together. Every snowflake that falls is a silent traveler, a tiny time capsule shaped by the air it has passed through. Though we often see them only as symbols of winter's wonder, each flake is more than a pretty pattern. It is a record, a frozen diary of the journey it has made. You see, snowflakes do not form all at once. They begin with a single speck, a nucleus, floating in the upper atmosphere, and then slowly grow, layer by layer, molecule by molecule, as they drift downward through the sky. As they fall, they pass through ever-changing layers of air, each with its own unique blend of temperature and humidity. And in the delicate lattice of the growing snowflake, every subtle shift leaves a trace. In this way, the snowflake becomes a temperature map, not in color or numbers, but in form, its shape, its texture, the sharpness of its branches, or the softness of its edges, all reflect the air it encountered along the way. For example, in colder layers of the sky, snowflakes tend to grow more simply. Needles or columns may form, tight, straight, efficient. But if the flake passes into a slightly warmer layer, still below freezing, but warmer than before, the growth pattern changes. Wide, flat dendrites may begin to bloom. Their branches fan outward, capturing the vapor-rich air. Then, perhaps, the flake dips into a dry zone. Here, growth slows. The edges pause. The crystal becomes thinner, simpler. Then again, it may re-enter a moist region, and the growth resumes with flourish, arms adorned with new branches, tips curling delicately outward. Each of these transitions is recorded, not in ink, but in symmetry. The snowflake does not forget its path. It becomes the path. Like rings in a tree or the lines in a seashell, its body tells the story of its making. This process is called morphological mapping, a quiet, natural recording of atmospheric conditions. Scientists can examine a snowflake's shape and, with careful study, infer the conditions it passed through. Every ridge, every branch, every hollow core is a soft signature of temperature and humidity, of turbulence, of stillness, of time spent in particular layers of cloud. It's extraordinary to think that the flake resting gently on your glove has traced a path of miles through the sky and carries the memory of every layer it touched. It is not just a frozen form. It is a memoir, a reflection of the sky's mood on the day it fell. And yet, for all its complexity, the snowflake remains serene. It does not struggle. It simply adapts, growing with grace in response to its surroundings. It accepts what the air gives, shaping itself moment by moment until it becomes a masterpiece of memory. Tonight, let your thoughts drift with the snowflakes. Picture their passage through layers of cold and calm, each new environment adding to their shape. See them change, not in haste, but in harmony, recording the sky's gentle fingerprint as they fall. And as you rest, remember, you too are shaped by the air you pass through, by days both warm and cold, by moments of moisture and spaces of stillness. And like the snowflake, your path leaves quiet traces, patterns of experience that form who you are. Sleep now, under the soft hush of drifting snow. Let the sky write gently on your dreams. To watch snowfall is to witness one of the softest movements in nature, a slow, drifting descent, almost too gentle to measure. Unlike rain, which can rush and splash, snow prefers a quieter pace. It does not hurry, it lingers, it floats. But how fast, exactly, do snowflakes fall? The answer is both simple and soothing, not very fast at all. Tiny flakes, those small crystalline forms that grow in dry, cold air, can fall as slowly as 1 mile per hour. That's about the pace of a casual walk through a quiet park. These flakes drift down almost imperceptibly, their small surface area and light weight allowing them to stay aloft for long stretches of time. The physics behind this lies in what's called terminal velocity, the speed at which an object stops accelerating and simply falls at a steady pace. For snowflakes, that speed is incredibly low. Their intricate shapes and light mass create drag, resisting gravity in the most delicate way. They seem to hover, suspended in the breath of winter. Larger snowflakes, especially those made from clusters or mergers, fall a little faster. When multiple flakes stick together, their combined weight helps them descend more quickly, sometimes at 2 or 3 miles per hour. These are the fluffy, wide flakes we often see in wet snowfalls. Even with their added weight, they still fall slower than raindrops, which can reach speeds of 10 to 20 miles per hour or more. Some snowflakes carry extra weight in the form of rime ice, the frost-like coating formed when supercooled water droplets freeze on contact. Rime makes the flake heavier, rounder, and denser, contributing to a slightly quicker fall. But even then, the descent remains peaceful, like a sigh. Of course, wind changes everything. A strong breeze can toss flakes sideways or upward, lengthening their journey. Updrafts within clouds may carry flakes aloft for long periods, before finally releasing them. The fall becomes a dance, not straight, but spiraled, a swirling path through the air. The gentle speed of snowfall is one of the reasons it brings such stillness to the world. Roads grow quiet, footsteps soften, sounds are muffled. Snow's slow descent gives the landscape time to prepare, to hush, to accept the covering, to breathe in the cold. There's no crash, no splash, no rush, just the soft arrival of winter's hand. As you rest tonight, imagine the sky above, filled with snowflakes in motion, some tiny and light, barely descending at all, others fuller, puffed with frost or clustered with neighbours, gliding downward like feathers. Imagine their slow, patient journey, 1 mile per hour, maybe 2, as if time itself has slowed to let them land. And perhaps, in this thought, you find your own speed, a pace not dictated by urgency, but by presence. Let yourself fall like the snowflake, softly, slowly, carried by invisible currents. No need to arrive quickly, no need to reach the ground all at once. Just drift, just breathe, sleep now in the stillness of snow. Up in the sky, where light fades into vapor and cold air curls quietly through the atmosphere, clouds drift like thoughts. Some are soft and cotton-like, basking in the glow of late afternoon sun. Others stretch long and flat, covering the horizon in a pale hush. But among them, only a few have the right qualities, the right heart, to bring a snowflake into the world. Not all clouds can give birth to snow. Many are too warm, some are too dry, others form too low, too thin, too fleeting. For snow to be born, a special kind of cloud must emerge, one that holds both cold and moisture, layered in stillness, waiting patiently above the world. The most common snow-bearing clouds are called nimbostratus and altostratus, broad grey blankets of vapour that stretch across the sky like winter's breath. These are not towering, thunderous clouds, nor the fluffy cumulus shapes of summer skies. Instead, they are subtle and subdued, built in wide layers, their tops cold enough for ice to form, their middles rich in water vapour that feeds the slow growth of snowflakes. Nimbostratus clouds, in particular, are known for gentle, steady snowfall, not the dramatic flurries of a storm, but the kind that falls for hours, whispering across fields and rooftops in soft silence. These clouds are thick and deep, allowing snowflakes ample time to grow as they drift within, brushing past moisture, passing through cold, forming arms and branches, like whispered lullabies of ice. Altostratus clouds, higher in the sky, may also hold the secret of snow. Though thinner, they hover in that special range of temperature where ice crystals can begin their dance. Snow from these clouds often starts softly, sometimes mixed with sleet or rain, until the balance of cold overtakes the warmth and flakes begin to fall in earnest. In colder regions, stratocumulus clouds may also play a part, low, rolling forms that drift heavily across the sky, dark and subdued. These clouds, when saturated and chilled, can release bursts of snow in quiet waves, their rounded forms cloaking the earth with surprise snow showers. And then there are the rare giants, cumulonimbus clouds, those dramatic towers often tied to summer thunderstorms. When they rise high enough into cold air, especially in late autumn or early spring, they may form snow instead of rain. But this is less common, and the snow they release is often brief and bold, more storm than lullaby. The snow-bearing clouds are quiet architects. They do not flash or roar. They do not rush. They simply hold the ingredients of winter in their wide embrace, waiting until conditions align, until the balance is just right. Then, from within, they begin to release their gift, one flake at a time, each one shaped by the very cloud that sheltered it. Tonight, imagine yourself resting in such a cloud, soft, layered, still, cold but calm, moist with possibility, a cradle for snowflakes, a sky-born nursery of crystals and breath. Let the softness hold you. Let the gentle weight of vapor wrap around your thoughts. You are in no hurry. You are simply drifting, waiting, becoming. Sleep now, in the arms of a snow cloud. There comes a moment in the life of every snowflake, after all the drifting, after all the shaping, when it simply cannot stay aloft any longer. It has grown, layer by patient layer, until it becomes just heavy enough. And then, without any fanfare, it begins to fall. This moment is not sudden. It is quiet, almost imperceptible. The snowflake doesn't plummet. It lets go. It surrenders to gravity, yielding to the pull that has been waiting all along. From its perch in the clouds, it begins its slow, swirling descent toward the earth. This is how snowfall begins, not with a crash, but with a hush. The snowflake weaves through the air, passing through layer after layer of atmosphere. It moves slowly. its delicate arms catching on the air like tiny sails. Wind nudges it, moisture kisses its edges, temperatures change around it, and the flake responds to all of it, growing still, even as it falls. Sometimes, other flakes drift nearby, and for a moment, they move in a small cluster, spinning gently in the same current. Then, a breeze pulls one aside. Another floats lower. They part ways, each continuing its solo descent. From below, it may seem as though the snow is simply appearing, flakes materializing out of the grey. But each flake's journey began long before it reached your sight. It began high above, in cold silence, gathering shape and memory. And now, released, it glides downward, not falling like a stone, but drifting like a thought. Heavier flakes, formed from merged crystals or rimed with frost, descend more quickly, but still with grace. Lighter flakes, airy dendrites or columns, may take longer, swaying and twirling in the stillness of winter air. And so, the snowfall unfolds, flake after flake, thousands, millions, each on its own path, yet part of a shared motion. They blanket the ground not all at once, but in rhythm, a soft accumulation of presence. They land on branches, rooftops, and windowsills, on coats and gloves, on cheeks. Some melt instantly, others linger, forming the first layers of snow's embrace. Snowfall has a way of making time slow. The world quiets under its touch. It hushes footsteps, softens lights, dims sound. As it falls, it invites you to pause, to look up, to breathe in the stillness, to feel the cold on your skin and the peace in the air. So tonight, picture the first flake leaving the cloud, then another, then 100 more. See them drifting, each one choosing its path, moving not with force, but with freedom. The sky is letting go, the snow is beginning, and you are falling too, in the gentlest way. Let go of the weight of your day. Let the air carry you, soft and slow, through layers of light and dream. You are descending into rest, into stillness, into sleep. The snowfall has begun, and so, too, may your dreaming. It seems like a small miracle. A snowflake lands on your coat sleeve or glove, fragile, feathered, crystalline, and for a moment it stays. It doesn't melt right away. It lingers, holding its shape, its branches, its icy signature. In that delicate pause, something beautiful is preserved. But why? Why doesn't the snowflake vanish the instant it touches you, dissolving into a drop of water as we might expect? The answer lies in the quiet partnership between cold air and surface temperature, working together to grant the flake a few extra moments of stillness. When snow falls through a sky of winter air, the temperatures near the surface can be just cold enough to preserve its structure, even after it lands. The snowflake, already frozen high above, is kept intact by the surrounding chill. If the air is below freezing, and your clothing or hair or the ground itself is also cold, the flake doesn't need to change. It simply rests there, undisturbed, holding its six-sided form. But there's something else too, something quieter, more subtle. Dryness. Cold air, especially when it is dry, slows the melting process even more. Moist air clings to things, transfers heat more quickly, and hastens the shift from ice to liquid. But dry air behaves differently. It doesn't offer warmth easily. It lets the snowflake remain itself just a little longer. A frozen sculpture suspended in time. You might notice this effect on days when the air feels crisp, the kind of cold that tingles lightly on your skin. These are the days when snowflakes show their finest features. You can see their arms, their lacework, their symmetry. They rest gently on your mitten or nestle into your scarf, each one offering a brief, private glimpse into the artistry of the sky. And then, eventually, softly, slowly, they begin to vanish. The warmth of your hand, or a subtle shift in temperature, will melt them. They fade not with drama, but with grace, a branch softening, an edge blurring, a form becoming formless. What was solid becomes water, and then, perhaps, if the air is dry enough, disappears into vapor. But even this is part of the beauty. The snowflake was never meant to last. Its gift is its presence, fleeting, perfect, and gone. Tonight, think of the flakes that linger. Picture them falling onto tree limbs, onto windowsills, onto the sleeve of your coat. See them resting, suspended in the breath between freeze and thaw. Let that stillness settle over you, the quiet moment before change, when everything holds its shape. You, too, can rest there for a while, in the pause, in the calm. Sleep now, like a snowflake that has landed gently, held in place by the kindness of cold air, resting in a world that asks nothing more. There is a special kind of quiet that comes only with snow. It doesn't arrive suddenly, nor does it make itself known with fanfare. It settles in gradually, gently, like the flakes themselves. You might not even notice it at first. The absence of footsteps, the hush of distant roads, the stillness between sounds. Unlike rain, which taps and patters and drips in rhythmic motion, snow absorbs sound. Each snowflake, as it falls, brings not just cold, but quiet, a muffling of the world, as though nature has laid down a blanket, not just over the ground, but over the noise of life itself. This happens because of snow's structure. When flakes pile up, they create a layer filled with tiny pockets of air, open spaces tucked between crystals. These pockets act like cushions, trapping sound waves, softening them, keeping them from bouncing back. Where once there was echo, now there is calm. Where once there was clatter, now only quiet remains. It's why snowy nights feel different, deeper somehow. Wrapped in snow's silence, the world takes on a muted quality. Voices are hushed, movements feel slower, even thoughts seem to drift more softly. Have you ever stepped outside during a snowfall and noticed how still it feels? How the usual hum of the world, cars, wind, distant chatter, fades into something more subdued. It is not your imagination. The snow is listening, and in its listening, it quiets everything around it. This softness extends even indoors. A snowy world outside seems to wrap the walls of your home, dimming the edges of sound. Inside, everything feels more cocooned, safer, slower, quieter. There's something deeply soothing in this silence. It doesn't feel empty. It feels full of softness, of peace, of space. The kind of silence that invites rest, not from exhaustion, but from serenity. As snow continues to fall, layer upon layer, the hush deepens. Trees bow slightly under the weight, and their branches no longer rustle. Roads become muffled paths. Footsteps sink without echo. Even animals move more gently. The entire landscape is wrapped in a soundless lullaby. Tonight, close your eyes and imagine yourself in that snowy world. Step out into the hush. Hear how everything slows, how each flake falls not only through air, but through silence, contributing to a deep and gentle stillness that settles in the heart as much as in the land. Let that silence surround you. Let it fill the space between your thoughts. There is no need for noise here, no need for speech or sound or song, only snow and the quiet it brings. Sleep now in the deepest hush, the hush of falling snow. Snowflakes are quiet things. They fall without a sound, rest without weight, and vanish without a trace. But every now and then, under the right kind of light, they reveal a secret, a shimmer, a glimmer, a flicker of reflected brilliance. Some snowflakes, with their delicate angles and glass-like forms, become tiny mirrors of the sky, scattering light in subtle bursts of wonder. Each snowflake is made of ice, and ice, in its pure form, is transparent. But within the fine, angular structure of the crystal, those thin arms, sharp branches, and intricate facets, there are countless surfaces, each one tilted at just the right angle to catch a ray of light and send it softly outward. In daylight, this may go unnoticed. The sun's brightness often washes out the sparkle, but at night, when the moon rises and casts its pale light over the world, the snow begins to tell a different story. When moonlight strikes the surface of falling snow, it doesn't pass through without effect. Instead, it's reflected and refracted, bent and scattered across the countless tiny faces of the snowflakes. The flakes begin to glint, catching bits of silver light and sending them in soft directions. It is not the harsh sparkle of diamonds or the brilliance of polished glass. It is quieter, fainter, like starlight brushing over still water. Sometimes, if the conditions are just right, with large flat snowflakes drifting slowly through the air and the moon high and clear, the snowfall seems to glow, not with colour, but with a kind of presence, a shimmer, a suggestion of light held in cold hands. These reflections are fleeting. Each flake tumbles as it falls, spinning gently, its reflective surfaces constantly changing direction. One moment, a flake may catch the moonlight perfectly, sending a sparkle into the dark. The next, it's turned again, its glint gone. But multiplied across millions of flakes, the effect becomes something more. An entire sky of frozen prisms, casting down soft beams of moonlit stardust. Snow on the ground joins the performance too. As flakes settle and pile up, they create a surface full of sharp edges and hollow pockets. Light from street lamps or moonlight dances across this surface, bouncing between crystals. This interplay of reflection and shadow gives snow its sparkle, especially visible at dusk or under the soft glow of twilight. There is something deeply calming about this silent illumination. It asks for nothing. It doesn't clamour for attention. It simply waits to be seen, a private show for those still enough to notice. Tonight, imagine yourself walking through that snowy world. The sky above is deep and dark, the moon full and soft. All around you, flakes are drifting down, slow, steady, luminous. They glint in the air like falling stars. Each one carries a reflection, a shard of moonlight returned to earth. Let those lights swirl gently around you, like floating lanterns. Let your thoughts reflect that stillness, soft, flickering, peaceful. You are walking through stardust. You are resting in light. Sleep now, in the quiet gleam of frozen sky. Hold a single snowflake between your fingers. If you can catch it before it melts, look closely, and you'll see that it's clear. Not white, but transparent, like a shard of glass. So how is it that snow, when it gathers, becomes a blanket of brightness? Why does it cover the world in white? The answer lies in the way light behaves, and in the billions of tiny surfaces that make up a snowy landscape. Each snowflake, on its own, is a tiny crystal of ice, and ice, like water, allows light to pass through. But the structure of a snowflake isn't smooth. It has ridges and angles, hollows and plates. When light, whether from the sun, the moon, or even a street lamp hits a flake, it scatters. It bounces from one surface to another, broken into smaller beams, redirected over and over again. Now imagine this happening not just once, but trillions of times. A single snowfall contains countless snowflakes, all layered, stacked, and jumbled together. The result is a surface filled with angles and air, and this surface scatters light in all directions. When light is scattered this way, equally, across the spectrum, it creates the effect of white. It's not that the snow is white in itself, it's that all colours of light are bouncing together, returning to your eyes at once, combining into the luminous, glowing white we associate with winter. This is why snow can look different depending on the light. In full sunlight, it gleams bright white, sometimes with a bluish tint from the sky. In moonlight, it becomes silver and soft, glowing faintly, as if lit from within. Under golden streetlights, it may appear amber or pink. Snow holds no colour of its own, it reflects the world around it. But it does more than reflect. Snow also absorbs sound, muffles motion, and brings a visual quietness to the landscape. The whiteness of snow is not just brightness, it is stillness made visible, a luminous pause across rooftops, trees, and fields. It softens edges, it smooths lines, it turns the jagged into the gentle. Children see snow and think of purity, of newness, of play. Adults often see silence, calm, or memory. But in both cases, the whiteness of snow stirs something deep, a kind of peace, like clean pages waiting to be written on. As you lie in bed tonight, picture the snow outside, covering the earth like a glowing quilt. Not cold or distant, but comforting. Its whiteness is not empty, but full of the light it has borrowed, full of the day's last breath, full of tomorrow's dreams. Let that light rest on your thoughts. Let the scattered brilliance of snow settle softly in your mind. You are safe beneath this luminous blanket. Sleep now in a world made white. There are few things more delicate, more fleeting than a snowflake. It falls through the air like a sigh, touches down for a heartbeat, and then begins to vanish, melting, softening, returning to water, then to nothing at all. And yet, through patience and quiet craft, some have learned how to capture them, preserving their beauty for just a moment longer. Snowflake photography is not about taking quick snapshots. It's an art of stillness, an act of reverence. It requires timing, tenderness, and an eye for detail so fine that it borders on devotion. The photographer becomes part scientist, part poet, trying to see, with clarity, what the sky offers in whispers. To photograph a snowflake is to meet it on its terms. The conditions must be cold, cold enough that the flake won't melt the moment it touches a surface. The air must be calm, the snow just right. Then comes the waiting, the observing. Often, photographers use dark velvet or pieces of chilled glass, resting gently outdoors to match the air's temperature. These surfaces offer a place for flakes to land without melting, and their contrast reveals the crystalline structure with dramatic clarity. When the flakes begin to fall, the photographer watches, not with urgency, but with quiet attention. Each flake is examined as it lands. Most will be imperfect. Some will break on impact. Others will be too small or blurred. But every so often, a flake arrives that is whole, its symmetry untouched, its branches fanned out in exquisite detail. Using macro lenses and high magnification, the photographer leans close, focuses, holds still. The shutter clicks, and in that tiny moment, the snowflake is preserved, frozen not just in ice, but in image. The photographs reveal a hidden world, 6 arms blooming outward in mirrored beauty, ridges etched like carvings, branches feathered and curling like frozen ferns. Some flakes look like stars, others like wheels, swords, or spindles. Each one a structure no larger than a grain of sand, yet full of astonishing complexity. And still, they last only a moment. Even on chilled glass, the flake will begin to soften. Body heat, breath, even the light of the equipment can cause it to vanish. The moment must be taken with care, for the window is narrow, a blink too long, and the flake is gone. But in that narrow window, something rare is captured, ephemeral perfection. The flake, a thing never meant to last, is held still, shared, studied, and celebrated. Not to keep it forever, but to honor it for what it is, a fleeting expression of cold and time and air. Tonight, as you rest, imagine those flakes drifting onto black velvet. Picture the soft touch of their landing, the quiet hands that reach to photograph them. There is no rush, no noise, only breath, lens, and light. Let your thoughts settle like flakes on chilled glass. Let your worries melt away, unnoticed. You are in a moment. You are perfectly held. Sleep now, in the calm that follows a snowfall, in the care it takes to see a snowflake clearly, and the peace it brings to let it go. Long before the world had high-powered cameras or digital lenses, there was a man with a microscope and a quiet passion for snow. His name was Wilson Bentley, though many came to call him simply the Snowflake Man. Born in 1865 in the small town of Jericho, Vermont, he grew up surrounded by cold winters and falling snow. But where others saw only the weather, Bentley saw wonder. From an early age, he was enchanted by snowflakes, by their symmetry, their stillness, their beauty. He would run outside during storms, trying to catch them on blackboards or dark cloth, rushing to examine them before they melted. He marveled at how no two were alike, how each was a frozen mystery, appearing once and never again. When he was 15, his parents gave him a camera, a large, cumbersome thing by today's standards. He paired it with a microscope, built an attachment with his own hands, and began what would become a lifetime of devotion, photographing snowflakes. It wasn't easy. In fact, it took him 2 years to capture his first successful image. The process required perfect timing, deep cold, and a still hand. But Bentley was patient, gentle. He believed snowflakes were miracles of beauty, and he treated them with reverence. He spent hours in the cold, waiting for the right flake to fall. He worked in barns and sheds, improvising darkrooms and lenses, developing plates with care. In time, he became the first person in history to photograph a snowflake, and then thousands more. His collection grew to over 5,000 images, each one a unique expression of the sky's quiet artistry. He didn't do it for fame. He did it because he loved the flakes, because he saw in them something sacred, a fleeting perfection that deserved to be seen, remembered, celebrated. Bentley wrote of snowflakes as if they were poems, not crystals. He described them as tiny miracles and spoke often of their individuality, how nature, with all its power, never repeated herself. In their 6-armed forms, he found something greater than science. He found soul. His work was sometimes dismissed in his time, seen as eccentric or unimportant. But years later, his images would be praised by scientists and artists alike. He was a pioneer, not only in meteorology, but in seeing beauty where others looked away. Today, Wilson Bentley's photographs are treasured. They remind us that even in the coldest corners of the world, there is art. That even in things that vanish, flakes, breaths, moments, there is worth. His legacy is not only in the images he left behind, but in the message they carry. That nature speaks softly, and that some of its most beautiful words fall from the sky in winter. So tonight, as snowflakes drift through the dark, remember the snowflake man. Imagine him in his wool coat, crouched beneath a cloudy sky, holding out a pane of glass to catch a single, perfect flake. See him bent over his microscope, studying the crystal like a star. Let his quiet wonder become yours. Let the snow fall. Sleep now in the hands of those who notice the fleeting things, and love them all the more. Not every snowflake completes its journey in perfect form. The sky, though graceful, is not always gentle. Winds rise, currents twist, and in the quiet turmoil above, even the most delicate flakes can fracture, their arms splintered, their symmetry lost. But even when broken, snowflakes remain beautiful. As a snowflake descends through the layered atmosphere, it may pass through zones of turbulence. These are invisible whirlpools of air, eddies that shift without warning. A sudden gust may twist the flake. A swirling draft may collide with it. The impact, though soft to us, is immense to something so fragile. An arm may snap, a branch may shear away. A perfect hexagon becomes a trio of shards. But even in this broken state, the snowflake does not cease to be. It does not unravel completely. It continues its descent, lighter now, perhaps spinning differently, but still made of ice, still shaped by the air, still etched with the memory of its path. To the naked eye, these broken flakes may look like tiny grains of glitter, catching the light but lacking obvious form. They mix with whole flakes in the snowfall, becoming part of the same silent choir. No longer symmetrical, but no less a part of the sky's soft expression. In truth, most snowflakes do not fall perfectly intact. The atmosphere is a living thing, full of motion and change. Many flakes encounter wind strong enough to damage their intricate forms. Yet, what remains is still graceful. The fragments continue to drift in silence, carrying with them the sparkle of their origins. Broken flakes also play a role in shaping the snow beneath our feet. They fill in the gaps between larger crystals, adding density, softness, and subtle shimmer to the snowpack. Their presence enriches the texture of snowfall, a mix of precision and imperfection, of delicacy and resilience. And there's a quiet wisdom in this, that beauty can endure even after transformation. That a flake doesn't need to remain whole to be part of the wonder. Its brokenness doesn't erase its story, it adds to it. Tonight, let your thoughts drift like those scattered flakes. Imagine them twirling in quiet spirals through dark sky, still catching moonlight, still settling gently to earth. They are not what they once were, but they are still themselves. You too may carry pieces, moments that chipped at your symmetry, winds that reshaped your edges, but still you drift, still you fall with grace, still you sparkle even in parts. Rest now in the company of broken snowflakes and the quiet knowledge that beauty never truly disappears. Sometimes, as snowflakes drift through the sky, they find one another. They touch lightly, they cling gently, and from that contact, something new is formed. Not a single crystal, but a cluster, airy and soft. A snowflake aggregate. These cotton-like clusters are not grown from one seed. They are gatherings, meetings, tiny unions in midair, born not of design, but of happenstance and timing. As the snowflakes fall, some tumble into others. Their delicate arms entangle, their frosted edges lock, and in the cold, sticky embrace of ice, they remain together. Unlike the symmetrical geometry of single snowflakes, aggregates are irregular. Flakes of different shapes and sizes may bond. A dendrite wrapping around a column, a plate nestled beside a needle. They do not mirror one another, they do not align, and yet there's a quiet harmony in the way they hold. These are the flakes that drift down like feathers, the ones that land softly on your face or disappear against your coat. They are light, so light, because the space between them is filled with air. Their structure is open, spacious, like the inside of a snow globe caught mid-swish. You may not see their complexity, but you feel it in their softness, in the way they vanish on your tongue. Aggregates often form in mild snowfall when the air is moist but not too warm, and the descent from cloud to ground is long enough for encounters to occur. They gather slowly, like dancers drawn into one another's orbit, forming partnerships in free fall. When they land, these clusters create the fluffiest snow, the kind you can sink into, the kind that muffles sound and holds its shape just long enough to pack into a snowball. They build up in drifts that feel light, almost weightless despite their depth. They are the snowfall of storybooks, soft, quiet, luminous. In science, snowflake aggregates are studied for their role in precipitation patterns, in snowpack depth, and even in how radar detects snowfall. But beyond the data, they carry something else, a lesson in softness, in connection, in shared descent. Tonight, as you prepare to rest, picture those snowflake clusters drifting downward, not falling alone, but together. Not perfect, but beautiful. A quiet bond, formed mid-air, holding just long enough to matter. Let that image settle in your mind, the airy embrace of flakes finding one another in the hush of the sky. Let it remind you that softness is strength, that drifting together is still flight, that not everything needs symmetry to be whole. Sleep now, beneath the lightness of snowflake clusters. Let the sky's gentlest touch carry you into dreams, soft, suspended, and shared. After all the drifting and dancing, after the tumbling spirals and icy reflections, the snowflake finally arrives. It touches down, not with force, but with quiet grace, and joins the others that have come before it. Together, they rest. Together, they build something soft and luminous. Fresh snow forms not a blanket, but a quilt of air and light. Each flake, with its delicate arms and open spaces, fits loosely among its neighbours. They do not stack tightly. They do not press into a solid sheet. Instead, they form a lattice, billions of crystals gently interlocking, creating a structure both fragile and strong, open and protective. This is the secret of snow's softness. Though made of frozen water, snow feels light underfoot, feathery on skin. That's because snow, when freshly fallen, is more air than ice. Between the branches of each flake are pockets of nothing, tiny chambers that trap warmth, cushion steps, and muffle sound. These pockets act as insulation, holding the heat of the ground below, keeping the cold from sinking deeper. The result is what we see after a snowfall, a world cloaked in gentle brightness. Roofs wear smooth, rounded caps. Fence posts are crowned. Branches are cradled under thick, pillowy coats. Every edge, every sharp corner is softened, as if the earth has been tucked in beneath a snowy comforter. These snow pillows form best when the snowfall is calm and steady, when wind is light, and flakes are large and loosely bonded. In these peaceful conditions, each layer settles gently atop the last, preserving the air between. The surface becomes almost luminous, a glowing crust that captures the ambient light of the sky. Even in darkness, snow seems to glow, holding the moon in its folds. Step into a snowy field after such a fall, and you'll feel it, the quiet depth beneath your feet, the gentle give of snow that's still mostly air. Beneath the top layer, the structure is intricate, a frozen sponge of hexagonal beauty. And yet, snow does not stay this way for long. With time, wind compresses the layers. Sunshine causes subtle melting. The open lattice begins to collapse. But in that first moment, when the snow is fresh, when the crystals are still pristine, the landscape is at its softest. Tonight, let yourself lie among those pillows. Imagine the world outside wrapped in white, tucked beneath layers of softly fallen snow. Picture each flake resting lightly upon the last, holding its shape, keeping its place. Part of something larger now. You are cradled too. Let the softness rise around you, cool, quiet, protective. Let your thoughts settle like snowflakes, light, still, intertwined with the breath of the sky. Sleep now, beneath the world's most delicate quilt. Every snowflake's journey begins high in the clouds and ends, eventually, in a drop of water. The transformation from flake to droplet is gentle, almost imperceptible. There is no crack, no shatter, no sudden collapse. Melting begins in silence, from the outside in. When a snowflake lands on a surface that holds even the faintest warmth, a glove, a window pane, a branch lit by sun, its outermost edges are the first to go. Those intricate tips and tiny ridges, so delicately formed in the high, cold sky, begin to soften. The crystal's fine structure starts to blur. What was once sharp becomes smooth. This is the nature of melting, not destruction, but transition. The flake doesn't vanish in an instant. It surrenders slowly. Ice becomes liquid, not all at once, but molecule by molecule, each one slipping from structure into freedom. It's a process shaped by temperature, of course. The warmer the surface, the faster the snowflake dissolves. But humidity plays a part too. Moist air accelerates melting, wrapping the flake in invisible warmth. Dry air, by contrast, slows the process, allowing the flake to linger just a moment longer in its frozen form. As the flake continues to warm, the change deepens. Its center, once solid and symmetrical, collapses inward. Water seeps through what was once a lattice of light. The flake is no longer a snowflake, but a droplet, round, reflective, and new. It may bead up on a leaf. It may slide down a window. It may fall from a rooftop with a quiet tap. This melting is not an end, but a passage. The water that was snow will move again. It may soak into the ground, feed a root, rejoin a stream, or it may rise once more into the sky to become a cloud again, and one day a snowflake once more. There is beauty in this cycle, in the softness of change, in the way something so complex and fleeting can return to simplicity, and then perhaps return again. The snowflake doesn't resist its fate. It embraces it, slowly becoming what it was always meant to become, next. And in this, there is a kind of peace. Tonight, picture a single flake landing on your window. See its arms, its perfect star-like shape. Watch in your mind as it begins to melt, just a little, its edges blurring, its crystal clarity softening into shimmer. There is no sadness in this change, only grace, only the quiet motion from one state to another. You too can soften tonight. Let the sharp edges of your day begin to melt. Let your thoughts dissolve into stillness. You are not disappearing. You are simply becoming. Sleep now, in the gentle warmth of your own quiet transformation. A snowflake is more than ice. It is more than cold air turned to crystal. It is more than something that falls and vanishes. It is a story, a silent, drifting poem written by the sky. Each flake begins with a speck, a dust particle, a grain of pollen, something tiny and unseen. Around it, vapor gathers. The air is cold enough, the moment just right. Ice forms. A simple hexagon appears. But the flake's journey has only begun. As it floats downward through the atmosphere, the snowflake becomes a student of the sky. It listens to the temperature. It watches the moisture. It feels the currents. And in response, it grows, not with chaos, but with memory. It builds branches where the air is wet. It forms needles where the cold deepens. It stretches in places of calm and tightens in places of turbulence. Each layer of growth is a response to the world around it. In this way, the snowflake becomes a silent historian. It records, without ink, the exact balance of the sky, temperature shifts, humidity changes, the mood of the clouds. The flake is shaped by all of it. And when it lands, it carries that story to the earth, a fleeting record of time and air, held together in geometry and ice. Snow teaches us that everything leaves an impression, that conditions, even the smallest ones, shape what we become, that nothing forms in isolation. Every branch, every ridge, every flourish is a response, a result, a quiet answer to an invisible question the atmosphere once asked. And yet, no two flakes are the same. Each one follows its own path, responds to its own journey. And so, snow also teaches us about individuality, about uniqueness without comparison, about being made from the same elements and yet becoming something entirely different. It teaches patience too. A snowflake doesn't hurry. It forms slowly, carefully, layer by layer. There's no rush to reach the ground. The sky takes its time. Snow teaches letting go, drifting gently downward, releasing its hold on the clouds, trusting gravity, trusting the wind, trusting that it will land softly somewhere, someday. And finally, snow teaches us about transience. Nothing it makes lasts forever. Its beauty is temporary, its form brief. But that does not lessen its meaning. In fact, it deepens it. Snowflakes remind us that some things are beautiful because they do not stay, because they were never meant to. So tonight, think of the snow that has fallen, the flakes resting on rooftops and tree limbs, the ones that melted on contact, the ones still floating down, each one carrying a story of air and time. And you are shaped too, by every breath you've taken, every day you've walked through, every wind you've felt. You are your own snowflake, a silent history written in soft, invisible lines. Sleep now, held in the memory of the sky. Fresh snow is quiet. It falls without a voice, layering rooftops, trees, and roads in a hush so complete, it feels as though the world has paused. And yet, there is a sound, a soft, secret sound, that snow makes only when it is touched, not when it falls, but when it's walked upon. A gentle crunch, not harsh or sharp, but like a whisper underfoot. The sound of snow comes from fractures. When you step onto freshly fallen flakes, you press down on millions of tiny crystals, their arms interlocked, their shapes held in frozen tension. Your weight causes them to break, just a little, and that break creates sound. It's not the loud snap of ice. It's more like the soft rustle of paper, the muffled crackle of leaves, or the faint pop of bubbles in a winter stream. It's a sound that belongs only to cold, to the cold of air and snow and sky. The temperature of the snow affects its voice. When it's very cold, below about 14 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 10 degrees Celsius, the snow is dry and the crystals are brittle. Your footsteps sound crisp and distinct. But when the air is just below freezing, the snow is damp, heavier. It doesn't crack the same way. Your steps might feel softer, quieter. The crunch becomes a sigh. Snow records your passing. Each step leaves an imprint, a sound, a moment. But the snow does not cry out. It doesn't resist. It simply lets go of its shape and becomes something new. As you walk, the air is filled with your own gentle rhythm, one soft crunch after another. In the woods, this sound becomes even more profound. Trees stand still, their branches softened by snow. No birds call, no breeze stirs. Only the rhythm of your steps echoes, like a conversation with the earth, spoken in the language of frost. In cities, snowfall muffles the usual sounds. Cars grow quieter, sirens fade. Even your voice feels subdued, as if the world has turned the volume down. And through it all, the snow waits patiently beneath your feet, listening, holding, responding. This sound is fleeting. By morning, if the sun warms the snow, the crunch may vanish. The crystals soften, the sound dissolves. But for a while, in that perfect moment after snowfall, the snow becomes an instrument, and you, a quiet player. Tonight, let that sound echo in your thoughts. The soft crunch beneath your boots, the whispering fracture of tiny crystals. Let it carry you back to walks in deep winter, when every step felt slower, quieter, more meaningful. Let your breath match the pace of snow underfoot, soft, even, present. And as you close your eyes, feel yourself walking through snow once more, not hurried, not lost, but grounded in sound and silence alike. Sleep now, to the hush of snowfall and the memory of gentle footsteps. A snowflake is never just a snowflake. It is a moment in motion, a shape within a cycle, a traveler passing through the many forms water can take as it moves across earth and sky. It begins as vapor, invisible, weightless, drifting through the air. High in the atmosphere, where the cold is deep and the clouds are waiting, that vapor gathers around a seed, a tiny speck of dust, or salt, or pollen, so small it's unseen. And from this beginning, the flake is born. The vapor turns to ice, layer by layer. A hexagon forms, and from its 6 corners, arms begin to grow, stretching outward like tiny frozen stars. The snowflake builds itself in response to the sky, collecting more vapor, forming branches and ridges as it drifts downward. This is the snowflake's ascent through stillness, not upward in direction, but upward in complexity, becoming more itself with every motion. Then it falls, drifting slowly through layers of atmosphere, through calm and current, through warmth and chill. It may touch other flakes. It may grow heavier with frost. Or it may stay small, perfect and singular, floating gently to the ground. And when it lands, its journey is not over. If the earth is cold, it may rest for a while, part of a snowy quilt across fields and rooftops. But in time, the sun will rise, or the wind will warm, and the snowflake will change again. Its edges soften, its form melts. What was sharp becomes smooth. What was still becomes water. That droplet may seep into the ground, nourishing a root, or it may trickle down a hillside, joining others in a hidden stream. The stream becomes a brook, the brook a river, and the river flows toward the sea. There, under the warmth of the sun, the droplet may rise once again, evaporating, becoming vapor, beginning anew. The snowflake is never lost, only changed. This is the endless water cycle, the great dance between sky and sea, vapor and ice, fall and rise. It is quiet but constant, a rhythm that moves through clouds and rivers, through flurries and floods, through breath and fog and frost. Every snowflake you see is part of it, a temporary form, shaped for a moment, then transformed again. There's something deeply comforting in that nothing is truly gone, that everything moves, softens, changes, and continues. The snowflake is not a final shape. It's a glimpse of motion frozen in time. Tonight, think of a single flake drifting down. Follow it as it melts, as it flows, as it joins the sea. Then picture it rising again, unseen but present, to become sky once more. Let that cycle lull you. Let it remind you that change is natural and return is inevitable. You are not separate from this rhythm. You too are made of water, of motion, of stillness, of change. Sleep. Now, traveler, you are part of the snow's journey. Snow is cold. We know this well. It bites at fingers and settles like frost on your breath. It falls from frozen skies and covers the world in silence. And yet, in a twist of nature's quiet design, snow does not only bring cold, it also holds warmth. This is the gentle paradox of the snow blanket. When snow falls and accumulates across the ground, it does not press tightly. The flakes, with their delicate branches and open forms, land loosely, creating a layer filled with pockets of air. These tiny air spaces are key, for air, when trapped and still, becomes an insulator. A thick blanket of fresh snow can act like a quilt pulled over the earth. It slows the escape of heat from the ground below, preserving the gentle warmth of soil and root and seed. Beneath a snowy surface, the earth remains far less frozen than it might be without that cover. In forests and fields, snow protects the sleeping life below. Seeds rest beneath, inches of powder, untouched by the sharper cold above. Small animals burrow into the snowpack, carving out dens where they find surprising comfort. These snowy tunnels, called subnivean spaces, hold warmth even while the wind howls above. Mice, voles, and foxes navigate this underworld of frost, cushioned by the insulating magic of snow. Even trees feel the snow's protection. When snow covers their roots, it shields them from freezing air and ice damage. It slows down the frost's reach, creating a buffer between life and cold. For people too, this knowledge has shaped survival. In ancient times, and still today in northern places, snow shelters are built to trap body heat and resist the wind. Snow caves, igloos, and simple windbreaks use the same principle. Snow may be cold, but its air-filled structure keeps the cold out, even as it holds the cold in. It is the stillness that protects, the snow's silence, its lack of movement. Within that calm, heat is held. Within that calm, life rests. Snow blankets also reflect light, especially sunlight, which helps prevent the earth from warming too quickly during the day and losing all its heat by night. This albedo effect, as scientists call it, adds another layer of gentle protection. Snow shields not just from temperature, but from change. Tonight, imagine the world beneath the snow, seeds curled in rest, animals nestled in tunnels, roots warm in the dark soil. Picture the snow above them, light and silent, like a blanket pulled up to the chin of the earth. Now imagine that same softness wrapping around you. You are beneath a quilt of air and ice, of silence and stillness. No harm can reach you here. The wind may blow above, but down where you are, it is warm, safe, sheltered. Let the snow's secret warmth surround your thoughts. Let it insulate your breath, your body, your dreams. Sleep now, wrapped in winter's gentlest cover. Snowflakes may fall in silence, but they speak a language all their own, a language of shape and form, of subtle angles and icy symbols. And for those who study the sky, each flake is like a word, a message carried on the wind, telling a story of where it came from and what the atmosphere was whispering when it was born. Meteorologists, like quiet readers of an ancient text, have learned to listen. They observe the types of snowflakes, plates, columns, dendrites, needles, capped columns, stellar stars, and interpret them as clues. These are not random decorations. They are patterns formed by the invisible balance of temperature, humidity, and motion in the cloud above. Each type of flake reveals something about the air in which it formed. At certain temperatures, ice crystals favor thin, flat hexagonal plates, simple and smooth. In colder layers, columns stretch upward like tiny frozen pillars. At just the right mixture of cold and moisture, the familiar branching dendrites bloom, their feathery arms spreading like frozen ferns in space. Even the presence of rime, frost from supercooled droplets, tells a story. A flake puffed with rime has passed through moist, turbulent air. A clean, sharp-edged flake suggests calmer skies. Meteorologists observe these details and begin to reconstruct the hidden world of the clouds. In this way, snowflakes become a language of ice, written in midair and read on the ground. They are like runes carved by temperature, symbols etched by the hands of wind. Ancient scribes once read the stars for meaning. Today's weather watchers read snow, not with superstition, but with reverence. The practice is called snow crystal classification, and it has existed in many forms over centuries. Scientists use charts to sort flakes by type, and by extension, infer the weather patterns that made them. It's not exact, but it's rich, filled with quiet beauty. A flake is more than a shape. It is a signal from the sky, and even when the message is brief, it still holds meaning. Tonight, imagine yourself as a sky reader, a calm observer beneath falling snow. See the flakes drifting down around you, some flat, some spindled, some broad with branching arms. Each one is a symbol, each one a sentence in a cold, poetic language. There is no urgency in translation, no need to understand everything, only to notice, to appreciate, to listen. Let your thoughts become light as flakes, gently forming meanings of their own. Sleep now, wrapped in a language only the sky can write. Far above us, higher than birds fly, higher than the tallest clouds of summer, there are towering winter storms that stretch toward the edge of the atmosphere. These are high-altitude storms, tall and quiet giants, their tops brushing the realm where sky turns to space. Inside them, snowflakes begin their journey miles above the ground. In these cold heights, air temperatures plunge to extremes. It is here that the smallest ice crystals begin to form, seeded by particles so fine they are invisible even under magnification. The flakes grow slowly in these frozen chambers, building arms and branches molecule by molecule, guided by the sparse vapor drifting through the upper cloud. A snowflake formed in such a storm may fall for hours before ever touching the earth. It passes through layers of temperature, of wind, of moisture. In the upper cloud, it may float weightlessly, barely descending at all. Then, as it enters the middle layers of the storm, it picks up speed, slowly, gracefully. Here, it may encounter other flakes, or pass through moisture-rich regions, gathering frost or merging into clusters. As it descends, the world changes. Some layers are warmer, Others are drier. The flake is shaped by each one, responding in subtle ways. It may grow or pause. It may spin. It may change from a plate into a dendrite, or collect rime that makes it puff and blur. The fall from a tall storm is a journey, not just through space, but through time. By the time the flake reaches the lower cloud deck, just before it touches the world, it has traveled miles. It may no longer resemble the crystal it once was. It has been softened or reshaped. Yet, it remains a snowflake, a traveler, a quiet piece of the sky, nearing its destination. These high-altitude flakes often fall with surprising softness. Their descent is slowed by the sheer distance they've covered, and by the changing layers of air that cushion their fall. Sometimes, the snow begins while the sky is still bright. You may look up and see no clouds, and yet flakes are falling, drifting down from storms so tall they remain hidden beyond sight. It feels like snow from nowhere, but it comes from the edge of sky. Tonight, imagine one flake on this long descent. Picture it forming at the top of a tall cloud where the stars almost begin. See it start its slow fall, passing through cold, through wind, through hush. It spins, it drifts, it changes, and still it falls. Let yourself fall with it. There is no hurry, only the long journey downward, through layers of thought, through hours of sleep. You are drifting toward morning, gently, patiently, like a flake from the sky's highest reach. Sleep now and fall softly. Snowflakes fall from the sky, sculpted in clouds, carried on the wind. But there is another kind of ice-born beauty that doesn't fall at all. It grows in place, blossoming not from skyward heights, but from Earth's own breath. These are frost flowers, intricate, upward growing patterns of frozen vapor, drawn across surfaces like delicate, silent blooms. While snowflakes are born in clouds and fall to the ground, frost forms directly on cold surfaces. When a surface, like a window pane or a leaf, becomes colder than the surrounding air, moisture from the air condenses onto it. And, if the air is cold enough, the water vapor skips the liquid phase and freezes instantly. This is called deposition, the same process that grows a snowflake in the sky. But here, it unfolds across the still surfaces of the Earth. The result can be magical. Frost crawls outward in veins and feathers, in fern-like arms and curling spirals. On a windshield at dawn, it may appear as crystalline lace. On an old barn window, it becomes frozen embroidery. On fallen logs or the edges of winter grass, it lifts in curling petals, delicate as breath. These are often called frost flowers, not because they bloom from stems, but because their shapes mimic petals, ferns, and blossoms, drawn in white. Unlike snowflakes, frost doesn't fall. It doesn't drift through layers of air or spin on a breeze. It appears quietly when conditions align. Cold surface, moist air, stillness. No wind, no noise. Just the slow, silent growth of crystal on wood, on glass, on stone. Whereas snowflakes grow from a central point and expand outward symmetrically, frost spreads across a surface, shaped by texture and temperature. A tiny ridge on a surface may guide the direction of growth. A knot in wood may disrupt the pattern. Frost listens to its environment, responding to what it touches, like an artist tracing invisible paths with frozen ink. In places where the air is especially moist and the temperature drops rapidly, hoarfrost may form, a thicker, more dramatic display of white crystals, growing upward from grass or fence wires, like frozen bristles or tiny shards of spun glass. Hoarfrost can make the world look as though it's been dusted in sugar or draped in diamonds. And yet, just like snowflakes, frost is fragile. A breath of warm air, a touch of sunlight, and it begins to melt. Its beauty is brief, often gone before most awaken to see it. But for those who rise early, who walk softly in the first light of morning, frost becomes a quiet wonder, a floral masterpiece born of stillness. Tonight, imagine a window just before dawn. Picture the frost as it forms, spreading outward like vines of ice, curling softly, reaching slowly. There is no noise, only breath, and cold, and a surface, willing to hold the shape of the air. Let yourself be that surface now. Let the stillness shape you. Let beauty arrive quietly. Sleep now, beneath a sky of snow and a world blooming in frost. There's something timeless about standing in snowfall, tilting your head back and catching a flake on your tongue. Children do it without thinking. Adults return to it with a sense of joy. It's simple, playful, and fleeting, like winter's own secret game. But have you ever wondered why it works? The snowflakes we catch on our tongues aren't just any flakes. They tend to be the larger, lighter, more open types. Those delicate branching dendrites, formed when the sky is moist and the air is just the right degree of cold. These flakes are wide and feathery, with 6 symmetrical arms reaching outward like tiny frozen stars. Because of their shape, dendritic snowflakes fall slowly. They catch the wind, float gently, and drift toward the earth like bits of lace. Their slow fall gives us a better chance to see them and to reach out and catch them. They're also less dense, meaning they hold more air between their arms and less water overall. This helps them resist melting for a few extra seconds. So, when a flake brushes your cheek or lands softly on your tongue, it may stay whole just long enough to be felt, to be noticed, before disappearing into a cool drop. The warmth of your skin, especially the warmth of your tongue, melts the flake almost instantly, but not before you've experienced its gentle landing. For just a moment, you feel the whisper of its fall, the crisp cool of its body, the soft vanish of ice to water. There's no bitterness, no chill that bites, just a cool kiss, a single second of winter meeting warmth. Catching snowflakes is one of the few ways we can interact directly with a natural process as it happens, without changing it too much. You can't hold a flake in your palm for long. You can't really keep it. But for that instant, when it lands, lingers, and melts, it becomes part of you. And perhaps that's why we reach for them. Perhaps we're not just playing, we're participating. We're joining in the snowfall, sharing in the moment, letting a piece of sky land softly on our lips. It's also a way of saying yes to the moment, yes to wonder, yes to small joys, yes to something you cannot own, but can still experience fully. Tonight, picture the flakes falling slowly around you. See the open sky above, wide, soft, grey with quiet. Tilt your head back. Open your mouth. Let a single flake land, dissolve, and become part of you. Feel the joy in that one small act. A gift from the clouds, met with nothing but openness. You don't need to chase the snow. It will come to you, and like the flakes, your thoughts can fall softly now. Let them land, let them melt, let them go. Sleep now, with snow on your tongue and dreams in your breath. Snow has always stirred the imagination. Long before we knew of crystals or cloud temperatures, before microscopes revealed the 6-fold symmetry of ice, snow was already making its way into poems and dreams, bedtime stories and lullabies. It arrived not only in the world outside our windows, but in the stories we whispered before sleep. There's something about snow, something quiet, fleeting, and full of light, that speaks to the soul. It doesn't shout. It arrives slowly, delicately, covering the earth in silence. It asks us to look closer, to notice, to wonder. And so, snow became a symbol of peace, of purity, of transformation. In fairy tales, snow is often a threshold. It marks a change in season, or the passage into another realm, the turning of pages, the beginning of magic. Forests dusted in snow feel more mysterious. Castles cloaked in winter shimmer with timelessness. Characters in snow-covered worlds tread carefully, their footprints marking where the story has gone. In lullabies, snow falls like stardust. It drifts through verses like a lull, a rhythm that slows the breath and softens the night. Softly falls the snow, the songs might begin, and we are already half asleep, hearing the hush in our minds. Poets, too, have always been drawn to snow, to its clarity, its fragility, its brief beauty. They describe it as a veil, a whisper, a metaphor for dreams that vanish at dawn. In snowy scenes, time seems to pause. The world becomes a blank page, and on that page, the poet writes. Even in dreams, snow appears. It falls gently in the background of memory. It fills the sky in imagined places. In our sleep, we might walk through snow without cold, feel its presence without weight. Snow, in dreams, is often peace made visible. And so, we find it everywhere, in stories passed from parent to child, in songs hummed beside the fire, in films and paintings and quiet books. The image of a flake drifting downward stirs something wordless in us. It reminds us of softness, of pause, of presence. Snow becomes a metaphor, not just for winter, but for the gentle things, silence, stillness, wonder. It tells us that even the briefest things can be beautiful, that not everything needs to last to leave an impression. Tonight, imagine snow falling not outside, but within. Let it drift across your thoughts like stories from childhood, soft, unhurried, full of light. Let the flakes carry poems. Let them hold lullabies. Let them settle on your dreams. You are not alone in this, for as long as there have been stories, snow has been falling through them, quieting the world, one flake at a time. Sleep now with snow in your dreams and stories wrapped gently around you. In the end, a snowflake is more than a crystal, more than frozen vapor shaped by air and time. It is, in its purest form, a gift. A snowflake asks for nothing. It forms in silence, drifts through the sky without claim, and lands without expectation. It is created by the clouds and offered freely to the world below. A soft message that simply says, slow down, rest, watch the world grow quiet. We often rush through days, moving quickly between tasks, between lights and sounds and screens. But snow changes the pace. It hushes roads, it slows footsteps, it silences branches and breathes stillness across rooftops. The world, when it snows, listens. A single flake may seem like nothing, but when millions fall together, the world is transformed, not by force, but by accumulation. Softness building upon softness, stillness building upon stillness, until everything glows. This is the sky's way of reminding us. Not all power is loud. Some of it arrives gently, some of it falls slowly, some of it is white and weightless, shaped by wind and released without a sound. The snowflake offers a moment, a pause in the noise, a chance to notice, to step outside and feel the cool hush on your cheeks, to watch light dance on ice, to marvel at the smallness of a thing so perfectly made. It reminds us to look closely, to breathe more slowly, to feel the rhythm of falling, to accept that some things, like snowflakes, like days, like dreams, are brief but beautiful all the same. So tonight, as you lie still and the world begins to sleep, imagine that a flake is falling just for you. One last gift from the sky. It has traveled a long way, passed through many layers of air, been shaped by silence and breath. It carries no message except this: you may rest now. The sky has given you its quiet. The snow has blanketed the earth in calm, and you are free to let go. Let the snow fall within your thoughts, softly, endlessly, each flake a closing eyelid, each drift a deepening breath. Sleep now, with winter all around you. You have heard the sky's quiet gift, and it has brought you peace. And as we reach the end of our snowfall story, I hope you felt a little more peaceful, and perhaps a little more enchanted by the quiet wonder that falls from the sky. Each snowflake we explored tonight was a small, silent marvel, a reminder that even the coldest moments can carry beauty, and even the quietest things can hold meaning. May the soft symmetry of winter skies bring calm to your heart. May the silent artistry of snow drift gently into your dreams. If you've enjoyed this cozy journey through the atmosphere, feel free to like or subscribe, only if it feels right to you, and only when you're ready. There's no rush. For now, you can simply rest. Let your thoughts settle like flakes on still ground. Let your breath fall in slow spirals. Snuggle in. Let the hush of winter wrap gently around you like a snowy quilt. Good night, peaceful dreams, and calm skies to you, always.